Mission statement.
Board received the feedback from the community and the committee or the stakeholder committee. They were sent the information as well. The board received a list of comments. Do we want to turn it over to Mr. Jacobs? Or?
Yep. If he's willing.
Yeah, thank you. I think the number one suggestion or recommendation was to use the word community in lieu of taxpayers. And I think the argument was pretty compelling. Most comments were that, renters are taxpayers too, and I think since property taxes fund the school and not necessarily federal income taxes or whatever, I think that's what they're referring to. So that one to me seems like a pretty simple one. It was discussed last time already, whether that might be a better word. So I'm all in favor of changing that out, using community instead of taxpayers. So, maybe we just do them sort of one by one because I have a few other comments.
So I support that.
Anybody else have questions or changes to that?
So the second one, it would also potentially be, and again, I'm just sort of picking the ones that stood out to me. You may have additional ones afterwards, but there was a recommendation made to use the word intellectual in lieu of academic, and I'm certainly open to that. I think there's this being a high school, using the word intellectual is maybe a little more on point what might be an ideal outcome in a student as opposed to the broader academic. So I generally also favor that, but not necessarily strongly leaning one way or the other.
I still prefer academic.
I agree. I think, are we done? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think intellectual is a little bit more innate and academic is more mission-based to the school. That'd be my reason for it. Not to mention the alliteration in that sentence. I've grown fond of it, so.
It's just part of where it started too, yes.
I agree. I prefer academic.
Okay.
What about you, Bill?
Yes, I agree.
So I think we'll keep academic.
Yep.
Students, how do you feel about academic versus intellectual?
I like academic more.
Academic, okay.
I think since, like Mr. Jacobs said, for the mission statement, it makes more sense. But I do like that argument, our kids are more than just their grades. But, with the mission statement, that makes more sense.
Then the second to last, there was a, because we asked would there be words to add or some to delete. There wasn't much on the deletion front, but two stood out to me in terms of the adding. And the first one that I would like to see added is the word equity. And so the place where it might make sense is, community committed to educational excellence, innovation, and equity. Because as we all know, it has been long overdue. It is now finally in the focal, a focus of discussion. The school has already been very strongly committed to it and has a lot to show for it. So we may have had it in a prior version, and somehow I think it was removed, not for any specific reason, other than maybe just an oversight, but just based on the general state of things with the discussion in the community. I would love to actually see equity included.
So would you put it after, and community committed to educational excellence, comma, equity, comma, and innovation?
Exactly. I would probably keep the order the way it was: excellence, innovation, and equity at the end, but that's...
As long as it's not in lieu of innovation.
Correct.
Okay, so okay.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. Yeah, as long, like Deanna said, as long as we keep innovation in there.
Anybody arguing against its inclusion? Okay, and then the last one was, there's also a feedback point about curiosity or lifelong learning. So, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of the idea of lifelong learning as a way to measure success of an educational institution, because you can do it with all these tests and all sorts of things. But if a graduate ends up being a lifelong learner, I think we've all won. And so this is, as an option, we could say at the beginning of the last sentence, as lifelong learners, comma, graduates are well equipped to be responsible members, and blah, blah, blah.
Sounds good.
I like that.
Wait, say that again?
It would, the beginning of the sentence changes to, as lifelong learners, graduates are well equipped to be responsible members of a diverse and ever-changing world.
Good transition.
It's, I mean, yeah, it's like one term. You could say, what's the school about? Lifelong learner, and, you know, that could be our one-word tagline.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just, I'm just pausing because I'm not sure we can start a sentence with a preposition, but I'm totally not opposed to it.
You can't end one, but I think you can start one.
I'm going to defer to you guys, who know something about English.
Oh, I'm the worst at grammar.
So Tom, are you planning to send me one more draft of this with these new words edited in, and then we'll put it on for the May 4th?
Well, I
meeting,
think
or
we
is the
should
board
vote it
looking to vote
today
tonight?
with those,
Yeah, I
because
think we
we've
should
got
vote.
our members here. I think we should vote this.
So can I read the
Final updated, amended?
the
Motion.
resolution, the motion as read and presented during the April 27th, 2021 board meeting, and I'll read it properly with all of the
Yeah, we
changes?
probably would say as presented, discussed, and revised.
Presented,
Discussed.
discussed,
And revised at the April 27th.
and revised during the, and
Yeah.
revised.
And Mona, if you would like, I mean, I have.
Did you write it all
I
out?
brought it, so here we keep academic and not use intellectual, but everything else in red is adopted.
Okay, cool, thank you. All right, I'm going to read the new statement in its entirety, and then I will read the motion, okay? At Riverside Brookfield High School, we value character as well as achievement. A partnership of students, parents, teachers, administrators, and community committed to educational excellence, innovation, and equity. We deliver a rigorous and well-balanced education for the academic, artistic, athletic, social, emotional, and civic growth of each student. As lifelong learners, graduates are well-equipped to be responsible members of a diverse and ever-changing world. Now I'll read the resolution. The Board of Education, Township High School, District 208, Cook County, Illinois, approves the adoption of the revised mission statement for Riverside Brookfield High School as presented, discussed, and revised during the April 27th, 2021 board meeting. I need a second.
Second?
Wes,
All right.
this is all in favor.
This is all in favor, right?
Yes?
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have
Nicely
it.
done, everybody.
Okay, and can
Well
I
done.
just say that since we spent a lot of time and energy and on this, I would love to see at least a half a dozen banners around the school telling everyone what it is, so that,
So are you asking the board if we all feel that way? Because you're not.
well, I'm saying, yeah, well,
Okay.
I'm putting it out there. I
Okay.
think that's a good idea.
I think the question is like, what's the communication plan going to be so that staff,
There you go.
so that
That's even
they
better.
can begin
What-
living this mission, so it just doesn't sit on a shelf, which
Right.
most mission statements do.
Right.
Like, how are they gonna live it? So I think that administration just needs time to
Think
kind of
about it.
figure that out. Like,
Yes.
what's the best course of action so that it doesn't just become,
Right.
yeah.
So
They
then
got
you're
'em.
proposing to the board, then you would be asking, so would the board, is it the board's pleasure that we would then ask the administration how they might, you know, present this, work with this, you know, have present?
Yep.
Okay.
I also think it'd be a great idea to put it right on the agenda every month in a box, so that every board member can see it every time they look at the agenda.
I like that idea.
Well, every action you take, you should be able to then draw a direct correlation to your mission statement. Right, like every teacher walking down the hallway, you ought to be able to say, what did you do today that lives out our mission? Like, everybody ought to be able to answer that question.
And
But they need
it's
time
over
to create a
60-something
plan.
words now, and so they ought to be able to
That's what
find,
it is.
everybody in the organization ought to be able to find something.
They should.
One thing.
They should. It's
There's a
pretty
lot of
inclusive.
words there
112
this
words,
time.
Pretty inclusive, yeah.
So then again, you'd be asking the board, how does everybody feel
Yeah,
about
yeah.
keeping it on our board agenda? I'm not opposed to that, but again, the board is a voice of 7.
Sure.
Yeah, so they can
Anybody
figure it out.
opposed to that? See?
I mean,
Too long
can
for
I
a
just,
t-shirt.
maybe one, I mean, first of all, I would like to thank everybody for participating. And Wes, I know, like, I mean, at some point you and I worked on this together pretty closely.
Right.
And I'm super happy about it, including things like the opening sentence. But if there's one thing that could come out of this that might have something to do with how the administration presents it to the teachers, this happens to coincide with the light at the end of the tunnel of the most difficult year that this school probably has been through in its maybe recorded history. So, you know, the thing about, you know, words like innovation that we just said is very, I mean, it's a reflection of what the school and all its members have achieved together. And so, you know, I mean, it's all just words at some point, but it's real what we've all been through. And so if it can be celebrated as a distillation of what is possible even in the odds, you know, against all odds and so forth, I think it might be possible to actually leverage it as something truly celebratory and something that I like the idea of having it on the agenda so that the word innovation shows up every time in writing and is a reminder to all of us to hold ourselves accountable to that standard. So, sorry, it's a bit of a wordy endorsement of what you suggested.
It reminds us of what the school has done, because the school is not foreign to innovation. Remember, the students opened up a restaurant and ran it. It was called the Paw. Remember, the students had the School of Science. We had a school within a school. And they had their own little block. And we partnered with the zoo. And that was the C program. So innovation has come in waves through this school. And by keeping it here, doesn't mean it's brand new, and certainly innovation during COVID. But keeping it here reminds us of who we are. Because it's an R, not what we can be.
And I do think the next piece, and I know some of us around the table have said this previously, of setting the goals that track with this mission is really a more challenging, I won't say more challenging, but an equally as challenging piece, right? And so to the point about how it's communicated and, you know, marketed, if you will, I think some of that starts coming out as you talk about what are the real goals that this mission statement inspires. And as we talk about them here, I think we'll get a sense of what the highlights are and, you know, how we may or may not want to accent certain parts of it. So I think this is still a work, although adopted, and I think you know, Tom, your work on it, Wes, your work on it, everyone's work on it is incredibly admirable, but we still have work to do.
Yeah.
Right, well, I was going to echo that. 2 years ago, we started this as step one, and really, we started it 4 years ago as step one in a larger step of then the goals and then the strategic plan.
Yeah, it should
Because
all
that's-
align, because if
that's
it
where-
doesn't align, then one of them's off.
Right, and that's where we started with the mission, we're going to go to the goals, and then there's the strategic plan. What are we doing? Because we got to really watch the money 10 years down the line. You know, the lost learning's with us 11 years, right? The first graders are going to be here, 12th graders in 11 years, right? Before it's gone.
All right, moving on.
Okay, TRS Supplemental savings,
No update at this time. Chris is still waiting to get back from legal counsel.